Party, aren't you guys? I think it would be fun to go to Michael's and have a little birthday party. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chris Williams, and I'm here to share just about an hour, sometimes a few minutes over with you to be able to paint Singing in the Spring. And I think, Chanel, we can just go ahead and go straight to business and let's go overhead. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. I've been watching everyone tune in, and I think it's great that we have so many friends here in the classroom with us. We're adjusting a camera here at one end. So let me just share with you that this is the project that we are going to paint this evening. Mine is actually on a canvas panel board, but any 8x10 canvas surface, whether you use a gallery wrap or the traditional, like maybe 1-inch with canvas, anything like that is fine. We're going to paint using the FolkArt multi-surface paints this evening, and we have quite a bit to cover. So I'm going to paint it a fairly decent quick time. By chance, if I'm painting too fast for you, if maybe by chance you might be brand new to painting and maybe you enjoy painting at a slower pace even, feel free to just paint along as long as you can. And if it gets too overwhelming, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Sit back, relax, watch the rest of the lesson maybe, and you can always pick up the recording. As Chanel said, it will be in the Michael's channel on YouTube tomorrow. So you can always then rewatch and play along and paint along through the recording. So this is Singing in the Spring. I thought it was just a fun little project, and let's go ahead and share with you that if you registered for the class, you've already seen the supply list, and there was a free downloadable pattern for this class tonight. It was right there on the registration page. It prints out to 2 8.5 by 11 sheets, which you could then take scissors and cut along this dotted line here and piece it together to get your pattern if you like. And so there, if you don't have the pattern, I think they just added it to the chat section there. So that's there available for you. And what I like to do when I have a pattern is I like to put it all together on one piece, and I like to do this on tracing paper. The reason I do that is because I can see through the tracing paper, and I want to make sure that my pattern is fully aligned with the edges or the sides of whatever it is that I want to transfer the pattern to. So that's why I have mine larger on 8.5 by 11 tracing paper here, and I cut that down a little bit bigger than my 8x10. I transferred my pattern. If anyone's a beginner out there and you're not sure how to transfer the patterns, there's a great product that you'll want to obtain if you don't already have it. It's gray graphite. It's a transfer paper. And this is what I use to transfer my pattern. There is a darker side, that is the graphite side, and a lighter color side. And what you want to do, and if you're not sure which side is which, you can always put it down on something and kind of scratch over it, and you can see that the graphite is going to transfer lines for you. So once you have your pattern in place and you kind of like where it is, if you can tape things down, but my sheet is actually larger than my canvas surface underneath. So I'm just going to hold it in place. And then I'm going to put that dark side of the graphite down to the canvas panel or canvas, whatever you're doing. Get my graphite centered all the way across the pattern. And then I use a stylus. It's like a dead ballpoint pen. It's an artist tool. This one is double-sided with a larger ball on the one side and a smaller ball here on the other side. And all you need to do to transfer tonight is just the shape of your pail. And to transfer, you're just simply drawing over these lines. And that graphite sandwich between is going to transfer the pattern onto your surface. So you're going to transfer the shape of the pail, including the handle, and transfer your little bird. There's no need really to transfer your flowers or all of these individual leaves because we have this rich dark green background that needs to be painted before we paint our leaves and our little cone flowers on here. So we want to make sure, rather than having to do all that dark green in between all these spaces, we're going to paint that on first. If you want to, just to kind of help give yourself a little extra guideline, you could transfer the shape of just the centers, and that way you'll know exactly where those flowers are going to be placed. I did that on mine tonight just to kind of show you. Let me set this graphite away and my stylus away, my pattern aside. And I'm going to bring, mine's very light. Then I went back over it with pencil just to make it a little bit darker for you. But can you see all these little, not quite circles, almost like oval shape? That would be like representing the flower centers of our little cone flowers here tonight. So now that I have my pattern on, let's just go ahead and get some paints out. If any of you are painting along with me, you go ahead and do the same thing with me. We're going to go ahead and put out onto our palette some apple red. If you don't have apple red, any nice, bright, vibrant red color is what you need. Oh, I'm glad you're painting with me tonight, Carolyn. Thank you. I always love to know that people are painting along. That's always fun. The next color I want you to put out onto your palette is some Thicket. And let's put out a little bit of Licorice. Licorice is our black. Thicket is a very dark green. And let's see, I think I'm going to also put out our yellow. And the yellow that we're using tonight is moon yellow. And let's put a little bit of that out as well. So I'll repeat my colors. I put out apple red, Thicket, Licorice, and now some moon yellow. And let's go ahead and get going. Let's start here on our pail. And what I want to do is base coat or color book paint in the whole shape here of our pail. We're going to do that with our apple red. So if you have a large, like maybe 3/4 inch brush, go ahead and use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stroke that brush up into the puddle of paint, filling both sides of that flat brush. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint as quickly as I can the shape here of our little container. If you're painting along, you'll want to do the same thing.
So, Chris, there's a couple of questions.
Sure.
Could they use medium yellow?
I'm sorry, Caitlin, let me introduce you. I didn't say that. Here at Plaid, I have someone being my backup here as my moderator, and that is Caitlin. And so she said that someone's got some questions. So this is Caitlin's visiting with me tonight. So shoot all your questions in the chat and Caitlin can either answer them or pass them on to me. So go ahead, Caitlin. Sorry about that.
All right. So I know that you're not using the yellow right now, but eventually could they use the medium yellow?
Yes, medium yellow will work. And I'm using the FolkArt multi-surface paints, which basically means that this formula is a little bit different than the original formula, the matte acrylics. This dries to a satin finish. And it also is a paint formulated that will go on quite a variety of different surfaces. It will go on wood, on tin, on terracotta, on canvas, like we're painting tonight, paper mache, greeting cards. This will work on fabric. It will work on glass. The multi-surface formula will paint on quite a variety of surfaces. So that's what I'm working with tonight. If you are working with the original formula of the matte acrylics, that is perfectly fine as well. And that formula does have a medium yellow in it, and I think that would work just fine. The matte acrylic. And oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Ahead, no.
About to move on to another question.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead.
Okay. What should they do if they don't have tracing paper?
Can you use the pattern itself? If you take this pattern that you can print out on your computer, you can cut right along there, piece the pattern together, and you can use that and then transfer using the gray graphite transfer paper.
Okay. And then are they supposed to wet the brush first before they put the paint on?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not, because I did not want to thin the paint any, did not want to thin the consistency. I want that full body of the paint and the full opacity of our red. You know, a lot of times reds don't have a lot of hide or don't have as much hide as some of the other colors. So I just wanted that nice, bright, vibrant red. So I did not use water. And what I've done so far, if you want to look, I have painted the body of the pail. And then there's a little line that goes through the middle that is kind of like a little raised bump. And so what I'm going to do now, let me just kind of even this up a little bit. I'm using that flat chisel edge of my brush to kind of even it up. While I still have the red in my brush, I'm just going to load into our moon yellow and get a little bit of the moon yellow pulled out here. And the yellow and red is going to make a beautiful orange color, right? Yellow and red make orange. So we're just going to brush mix here on the palette and make like a little bit of an orange. And I'm going to use that on the chisel edge to kind of fill in this rim. Were there any other questions, Caitlin?
As of now, no.
Okay, great. I know I talk a lot and I'm always talking, but do interrupt me, Caitlin, if there are any questions, because I want to make sure everybody understands what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
I won't be mad at you. Okay. For those of you that are painting along with me, this is where we are right now. The body of the pail is painted solid with our apple red. And then I have mixed an orange, just brush mixing and kind of dirtying up that little puddle here with my apple red and some of the moon yellow. And then I use the chisel edge of the brush to just kind of scoot that color in that little section there. We'll come back and we're going to do more to the pail, but let's scoot on right now. And I think it might be easier to have your bird kind of based in before we do the green around the outside edge. So I'm going to clean my brush right now because I'm going to scoot down to a smaller size flat brush to paint in our bird. And all I'm doing right now is just kind of laying color in. So let's go ahead now and look at me blue. It's the same thing as like maybe a medium blue. If you have medium blue or look at me blue, that's the blue color that you want to get out onto your palette now. And that's all I'm going to add right now. I'm going to now use a number cobalt blue. I would mix a little white with the cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is going to be a little more intense, and you might need that to do some shading, maybe perhaps, if you don't have a darker blue. So I'm going to now just kind of fill my, using a number 8 flat brush, I'm just going to fill that brush, or actually I think I scooted to a 12. I would say use your 12 or your number 8, whichever is more comfortable for you. Fill that both sides of the brush with your Look at Me blue. And on the tail feathers, there's actually 4 little feathers, and I am using the chisel edge of my brush just to kind of draw in that shape and then slide it back up. And what I did was I started at the bottom of the bird's belly or bottom, and I stroked out towards the tip of the feather. These are almost like little comma strokes. And I just want to lightly get some color in on the bird's tail feathers. So we're just kind of swooping out. Yeah.
Do you ever teach intermediate or advanced classes?
Yes, I do. I tend here on Michael to teach more beginning level because I think it's great to get everyone interested in art and to begin painting. But I do paint and I do teach different levels.
Do we have anything scheduled with Plaid or?
Yes, I'm going to be teaching a master's class in May at Plaid.
Okay, and where could they sign up for that?
Well, and we haven't announced it yet, so here the cat's out of the bag.
Oh,
the announcement will be made in our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So the same thing that I did on our tail feathers, I'm now starting to work on the wing. And again, I'm just using this same brush. It's a number 12 flat brush. and it is loaded with my Look at Me blue, and I'm using that chisel edge, that top edge of the brush, and I'm just kind of doing the same thing. I'm scooting out towards the scoop or the swirl of each of these little feathers and then scooting back in. And I just want, again, just want to get the blue paint on our bird, but we want to do it to where you're going to see what those areas are. So that's why I'm being careful to base coat in every single little feather stroke. And just kind of, I'm working on the wing now. And then once I get the wing done, we'll go ahead and work on the bird's body. And if you want to leave yourself what I call little cheat lines, to know where those spaces are, then let's do that. So I'm now going to start working on the bird's body. I'm going to start here at the tail and using the chisel edge of that brush. I'm just kind of painting the line, following the pattern of our bird. And I'm going to start filling it in. And when I say a cheat line, I'm going to leave a little bit of a space between the body of the bird and where the wing is. So as I come back and I paint in here, I'm just going to chisel in and leave myself just a tiny little spot so that later I'm going to know when we get ready to work on our bird, I'm going to know exactly where that wing is, and I don't have to stop and retrace that pattern onto the blue shape of the bird. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And let's continue on. I'm going to round up around the head. And I'm going to work on the back of the bird from the wings that are outstretched. Again, leaving myself a little bit of a cheat. And I had transferred the eye shape on my bird. If you have, you'll want to do the same thing. Just kind of leave a little circle space void of our blue paint. If you did not put your eye on, then you can go ahead and do the whole entire bird's head. I'm going to scoot right along now towards the front of the bird and the top. So when I look at my bird now, you can definitely see where the tail is, where the wing is, and where the eye is going to be. Just leaving those areas a little bit void of paint, giving myself a little bit of a cheat line. And now I'm going to clean out that blue out of my brush. I'm going to go back to my larger brush. I thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you, Caitlin, for helping me moderate.
And I'm sorry, did you say it was on the Plaid Crafts Facebook group that you were going to post the stuff about
Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group? It will be. It's not there now. You're talking about my master class?
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be there. It's not there now. Right now, we're promoting the April masterclass. It's going to be taught by Andy Jones. I'll be teaching the May masterclass. So that's where it will be. It's just not there yet.
Okay.
All right, I now have my 3/4 inch flat brush, the same brush I used for my red, and we've cleaned our red out. What I want to do now is kind of get all of this dark green in around the outside edge. So if you did not transfer your flowers, everything that you see here is going to be green. If you did transfer the flower centers, like I just talked about a moment ago, you can paint around those. So that way you'll know where those flowers are going to be. This color is going to be our Thicket. That is our deep, dark green color. If you are painting on a wrapped canvas, whether it's a gallery wrap or this one that's not quite a full inch, you can finish the sides. In class tonight, I won't, because I'm going to want something to hang on to. I'm going to want a clean edge to grab. You can always come back and add that green later. So just worry tonight if you want on just the top of the canvas, okay? So this again is our 3/4 inch flat brush, and we are working to get that thicket in and around the background area. So I'm going to put mine on, and then when I have mine on, the next thing I will do is stop and dry this just to kind of set some of these colors in place. If you have a little hair dryer or a heat tool nearby, you'll want to get that ready so that you too can kind of dry yours as well. Using the bigger brush is going to give you the time to kind of manipulate the paint and move it quickly around the canvas, even around your little flower centers if you have them. And you'll want to hang around to the end of the class tonight because I have with me the sample of our next Michael's class. That's part of our plaid paint night lessons that we do here in Michael's community classroom. So I will be giving you a little preview of what the next class will be in 2 more weeks. So I'll share that at the end of class tonight if you're able to hang around. And if you're just simply watching tonight and want to take lessons or take notes even, that's great. Grab a nice beverage and enjoy and sit and watch. You can always paint on the replay at another time. I am going to save the area that's going to be my handle of my little pail here. So I'm going to use that chisel edge of my flat brush here, my 3/4 inch flat, and I'm just going to work around where that handle is going to be. And I'm going to leave that free of paint right now because that green handle will need to be able to show up later. I'm just kind of patting this color on. This is not the tail end of our background either. We're just, like I said, kind of getting color on the canvas right now. And we want to do this as quickly as we can. And these little flower centers don't have to be perfect circles or perfect ovals. We're going to work on that on top of the green once we kind of get that in place. And I did transfer, as I'm getting near mine, I'll tell you, I did transfer the shape of the bird's beak. So I'm going to paint around that because it will be easier to paint against the white of the canvas versus trying to paint over on top of our green of our background here, our thicket. So I'm going to work around that little beak shape. And you, if you're watching, you may notice that I do stop and reload my brush quite often, adding a little bit more paint. I will tell you too that when you are done with your painting, whether you're painting along with me tonight or you plan to paint on the replay, I welcome you to share a picture of your painting. I know the good folks at Michael's like to see your artwork, and I know that all of us here at Plaid love seeing your artwork too. Use the hashtag Make It With Michael's or Michael's Classes. You can also use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge or Plaid Crafts. So that is something that all of us then can find your work. And as far as where to post it, if you are a member of our Let's Paint to Learn to Paint community, feel free to post within our Facebook group. And that is Let's Paint with Plaid. If you're not yet a member, I welcome you to find it on Facebook and join our Learn to Paint community. It's a warm, caring, sharing community. We teach many classes there often. I've got one more little flower here to go around on the outside, and then I'm going to start working on the inside of the pail too, just to get some green down there as well. I'm coming up along the side of the pail. Again, use your chisel edge when you're trying to get exact spaces or exact shapes. How are we doing, Caitlin? Any more questions?
Are you using 2 different shades of green?
I am using just one green, and that is Thicket.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. kind of brushing it on and then almost like I am smoothing it out too, just to kind of, like I said, we're just getting color on the canvas. And a little bit, let's see, inside our pail here, I'm going to go around some of our flower centers. Just kind of pouncing that color on or patting that color on. And let's go along the bottom here of our pail.
And is there a way to make that shade out of primary green?
Maybe add a little black. This is a dark green, so kind of think about hunter green if you're mixing colors. There's going to be a lot of foliage, excuse me, and also our flower petals here on the inside of the pail handle area. So we're just really, like I said, I keep saying, we're just kind of getting color on the canvas. And we will come and add some detail, a little bit of shading on top of this, but not too much. Mostly on the inside here, it's going to be our flowers and our flower foliage. And I'm pulling up on the other side here. Make sure you go around the tail of the bird. Excuse me, around the tail of the bird. And a little bit more here across the top of our pail. And if you're looking at my sample, you'll notice that I did have a flower kind of spilling over onto the red pail, but we're going to work on that red pail before we do those flowers there. Okay.
What type of palette are you using?
This is a waxed paper palette. And it's a large one. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes. This is basically like a large rectangle. And the one I have here in front of me that I'm working with is like 18 by 24. It's almost like a very large placemat. But they come 9 by 12, they come 8 by 10. There's just, and it's disposable. So you don't have to worry about using a foam plate where it might be destroying the footprint here of our ecology system or ecosystem. Oh, I forgot the bottom here. Let me get that back out. One little section here at the bottom I missed. I'm just going to pick up some of that thicket using the chisel edge of my brush. And I'm going to scoot that paint here at the very bottom of my pail. Okay, I have all the thicket on my canvas. I did not worry about the sides tonight. Like I said, those are areas that can always be touched up after the fact. Just getting the green paint on as a base here for us, that looks great. I'm going to take a moment now and I'm going to use my heat tool and I'm going to quick dry mine. Okay, mine is not completely dry, but it's at a good point that I can move on to the next little step here. And what I want to do is I want us to all start working on our pail. Let's get some of our darkerness in the pail. You'll notice here, let me bring it up and I'll show you. Let me get a paintbrush and I'll point. The dark sides here of our pail are just that. They are dark. And so I've got a color that we're going to mix up here, and we're going to create that shading on the sides of the pail. We're also going to put it on this bottom section underneath our little bulbous band here. We're going to put a little darkness down across there and a little bit into the corners here on the top of the pail. So we're kind of doing like an L bracket or a square here. And then we're going to do the same thing here at the bottom, and we're going to carry it across where our little bulbous ring is. So let's do the dark color first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use apple red with a little bit of black. So I'm going to pour a little bit more apple red out onto my palette, but I'm going to do a separate little puddle. And what I want to do is you can either brush mix this, or it might be easier if you're painting along to just go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a burgundy color. And we're going to take our pure black here, which is my licorice, that very dark, dark red and black. And we're going to mix the two together, and I'm going to make a burgundy color. And that black is going to bring the richness to the red and really going to make us a darker color. So I'm going to bring a little bit more. If you've ever mixed colors, you know that black is a very, very rich color and can get away from you very quickly. So always, always, when you're mixing colors, mix your darker color into your lighter color, number one. And if black happens to be that darker color, mix just a tiny little bit at a time. Don't try and mix a great big vat of the color, okay? So now what we have is that apple red plus our licorice mixed using our palette knife to create a really nice burgundy color. I'm going to take that brush that was sitting in the water there. This was my brush that I used with my greens. Let's get all the greens out of your brush. This is my 3/4 inch flat. Okay, I'm going to pinch it dry. And now what I want to do is I want to load that brush with our local color, or what we call our base color here. And that was my apple red. So I'm stroking into the clean apple red, not our mixed burgundy. And I'm loading both sides with my apple red. And now I am going to side load into this burgundy that we just mixed. So I'm brushing on the palette right up next to that puddle of paint. And now I'm going to come here to my palette on a clean spot. And I'm going to make sure that that brush is beautifully loaded with that burgundy on one side and our apple red on the other side. And let's just go ahead. As I said, we're going to come into the corner. So I'm going to start maybe about 1.5 inches out, maybe even 2 inches out across the top here. Notice I'm just doing short, choppy, patty strokes, and I'm pulling that color right up here to the corner. Reload my brush, and I am patting and loading that color down the side. If you're not seeing enough contrast or enough darkness between the bright red and our burgundy, you need to stop and add a little bit more black. Adjust your color if need be. You can also tip your brush into the black, just the tiniest, tiniest little bit. Black is strong. It will carry you far. Don't overload your brush, but you can always add a little more black to that burgundy and make it a richer burgundy if you want as you load your brush. Let's go on now and let's start on repeating this same technique over here on the other side. And sometimes people ask me, why do I use my local color? Why do I use that base coat color? Why do I not just float the burgundy on here? Obviously, you can do that, but I'm telling you, you're going to get a much more professional look, and it's going to be more smooth and even blended by using your local color or your base color along with your new color, whether it's shading or highlighting. always load your brush with this basic color first and then add to it. I'm now going to, and I'll turn it this way. I've got my 2 corners and my sides done on my pail. Now I'm going to turn my brush upside down, or my painting, I should say, upside down. Using that chisel edge, I'm still just side loaded. That chisel edge is just going to kind of scoot right along the top part of our little orange raised ridge or raised little bump here. All right, so I have now my 2 sides done, and I have it done across the bump here. Now let's work on this very bottom part of the pail, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to start here on the side, come in a little bit, just like we did at the very top of the pail, and then bring it down to the bottom, making sure that I still have enough burgundy in the brush. And then let's bring this out a little bit further. So I've got my burgundy in my brush, and I'm just going to kind of pat across that surface, bringing it in towards the interior of my pail, just making that part a little bit darker. Let's flip our piece around and let's do this corner here. Either flip the piece around or flip your brush around. You want to have that dark shading on the outside edge again, down the side, a little bit across the bottom, and then blend it out or bring it out towards the center of our pail. And then what we're going to do is, just like we did the top of this rim, we're going to come along and do the bottom of the rim. So that is just patting along using the chisel edge of your brush to kind of get some of that burgundy, just to show that there is definition there. We're going to show that there is a ridge or a little bump in the pail. Okay, that's all we're going to do with our dark shading. We could do a lot more, but we're just going to keep it simple tonight. So let me bring this up and I'll show you what mine is. I've got it dark on the edges. I went across on both edges. Then I went across the top of the bump. Then I went across the bottom of the bump, and I also have my 2 sides done. Let's now start thinking about some highlight on our pail. So I'm going to get my brush rinsed and clean and pat it out well on a paper towel. And now what I want to do is I want to have my brush again filled with my local color. That is our pure apple red. Both sides of the flat brush, I'm using the same brush size. And that again was our 3/4 inch. And in our center of our tail here, it's going to be lighter in value here in the center where we have it darker on the edges. And that kind of gives you that illusion that it's not a flat tail. So let's work with our brush loaded with our apple red. And let's also add a little bit of that yellow. Again, that's moon yellow. And we're kind of making an orange here, a little puddle of that orange. And then I'm going to come to my canvas. I'm going to start up here at the top, and I'm just simply going to, with the moon yellow and the apple red, kind of begin to kind of work some of that color in right up along that edge. Can you see the big difference of color right now? And then I'm going to continue patting that out and still use some apple red. I'm patting it out so that it's now kind of blending towards the darker edges. And that moon yellow and apple red is going to give us that brightness here in the center of our pail. And I'm not having a lot of paint on my brush. I'm just kind of patting and stretching the color that I did add out. Can you all see that? And I'm just going to continue along. We'll do the same thing in that tiny little strip here at the bottom. In the center here, we'll add just a little bit of a highlight and kind of stretch it out towards the edges of our pail. And then our little raised bump, we're going to highlight that just a little bit more. So with the moon yellow and the apple red, that new orange mixture, we're just going to go over this one more time and kind of straighten it up or clean it up if you need to. Add a little bit more highlight of the yellow here in the center. And I'm just kind of almost seesawing. I'm using that chisel edge to the best of its ability. I'm going to work that tonight and let that kind of take our shape for us. And our pail is kept very simple because even though it's bright red and it's beautiful, it's not the star of the show. I think the star of the show is our bluebird and maybe even a little bit of our coneflowers. So we're going to stop right now, and that will be the end of what I'm going to do for our little red pail. The pail handle is done with white and black. So we have black out on our palette. That is our licorice. We need to add some wicker white to our palette. So once you have the pail kind of highlighted and you're happy with that, go ahead and add a little bit of wicker white to your palette. And I'm going to switch down to a smaller brush. I'm going to use a number 8 flat brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of this white out and make a separate little puddle. I've got white here pulled to the side. This is our wicker white. I'm using a number 8 flat brush, and I am going to tip a corner of it just ever so little, because remember, black is a strong color. I have just a very small amount of black on my corner of my brush now, and I'm going to bring it over here and start mixing into that little puddle of white. I want to mix a gray. Let me mix it a little bit darker. So always add the dark color into the light color, and always add just a tiny little bit at a time. So there is a nice little gray mixture. I'm going to use that chisel edge of the brush one more time, and we are going to kind of seesaw or chisel in the shape of our handle. If you were painting just the pail and a lot of that handle was going to be exposed, it would be very important to know that your curve and your shape of your handle was just perfect. Tonight, we're not going to worry about it because some of it is actually behind the bird tail. Some of it's going to be behind our greenery, and some of it's going to be behind the little flowers that we're going to paint. So we're just like I've been saying all along, we're just kind of getting color on the canvas, and you can watch and see I'm just kind of scissoring or seesawing this back and forth with this kind of medium value gray that we kind of mixed real quickly with our brush. And so now I have a gray handle to my red pail, and I'm going to come back with just a little bit of white, and only white this time, still from that little puddle of color. And I'm going to just scissor a little bit of white into that gray pail. Let me bring mine up so you can see. It's a very hit or miss. It's not exact because, again, this is just kind of background color. And what I want to do, this is perfect for beginners. We're just using that chisel edge, and we're still kind of seesawing, adding just a little bit of white, which is just like a little texture in our painting. Don't want to blend it in. You really kind of want to see the streaks of white in amongst the gray that you've already got in there. And that's all there is to our handle. So far tonight, it's been very simple and very easy, hasn't it? We'll work on our bird next. Let me take a drink of water. Thank you for your patience with that. Now what we're going to do is let's go ahead. We have the blue out. That was the base color of our bird. And that again was our Look at Me blue here. We need a nice deep shading color for our blue. And I put on the supply list ink spot. So let's get a little bit of ink spot out. If you don't have ink spot, Prussian blue would work. A navy would work. We just want a nice dark rich blue color. We're going to do the shading first on the bird. Then we're going to highlight. And then we'll do some little fluffy strokes here on the bird to kind of give our bird some more feathers. So again, this is my base color, and my base color was our Look at Me blue. And we want to shade with our ink spot. So I'm cleaning that brush that I was working with, my number 8, and I'm going to set that down for just a moment. Let's work with our number 12 flat brush. And I'm going to load that brush just like I've been loading everything else. We're using that local color of our Look at Me Blue, both sides of the flat brush. When I load the brush, even though I've got paint on both sides, I do not have, let me bring it up this way and you can see, I do not have a tremendous amount of paint. You don't see ridges on that chisel edge. It's very, very thin. I don't have big globs of paint on here. In other words, what I'm trying to show you, it's very little paint, even though I have stroked into the puddle on both sides. And so what I'm going to do now is I need to kind of side load into our darker blue, and I need to pick up a little bit of that darker blue on only one corner of the flat brush. Let's come here and stroke and blend on the palette, making sure that the brush is properly loaded and smooth graduation between the two different blues here. So with this ink spot color, I'll show you here on our finished sample, our little bird has shading that goes on his bottom of his body, on the body itself as it goes towards the tail feather, around the wing, and the top of his body. So basically, we're kind of circling around this wing, but we're also encompassing the bottom of his body. So with that side of the brush that has the ink spot in it, or your darker blue color, let's start on the back of the bird first. And remember, because we have our base color or our local color in here, that's going to help smooth out some of that, what was our base coating color, our base coating layer. So again, when I apply the paint like this and I'm doing shading, I often use a short, choppy little patty stroke. So we're just kind of patting that darker blue in on the back side of that bird. Now what I want to do is making sure I still have some of my local color in my brush. I still have some of my shading color in the brush. I'm going to keep my brush that has the darker blue side to the wing. And I'm just going to start using short, choppy little strokes as I'm patting this color on and I'm moving around the wing. Nice and smooth and even. I'm going to continue going around that wing. And this is why we kind of left ourselves a little cheat sheet too, meaning that little space that we left between the body of the bird and the wing when we were painting it in, because now you know exactly where that wing is and you know exactly how to paint that area. And I'm going to carry across the top of the bird with a little bit more of our dark blue. Okay.
Could the painting be started by painting the entire canvas green and then adding all the picture?
Yeah, you sure can. And a lot of times people ask us, why do we do the background around some of our object? Main thing is because here we're painting everything all in an hour. If you wanted to base coat everything first with your dark green, your Thicket, then put your pattern on, then paint your red pail and so on and get up to this speed, you sure could. But the red pail is going to be harder to paint against the dark green. Reds are sometimes notorious for not being very opaque in color, although our apple red is great. Apple red against the green, it's going to take you many, many coats, or you're going to have to undercoat with another color, like maybe a yellow ochre, to get the first couple layers on and then put your red on. This is actually a little bit quicker and easier by doing it this way because we do only have about an hour or so together. And we've already almost got close to that time. So we just need to keep moving on. All right, now what I'm going to do with my Look at Me blue and a little bit of our white, that is Wicker white, on the side of the brush, I'm now going to start highlighting. And I am going to have a brush that's loaded with our Look at Me blue and also our Wicker white. So now I'm going to highlight the front part of the bird. So I'm going to start here about mid-back side of the bird. And I'm going to come around to the beak and around to the belly and then stop where our dark is there. And that's basically about where the little pail is, where his feet are going to be. So let's keep moving around And I'm just ever so lightly using my lightest color towards the outside edge. And that is almost like a light blue right now because we mixed our white with our blue. Okay. All right, now my little bird has a highlight on him. So now let's go ahead and rinse that out and let's start working on the wing and the tail feathers. And what you're going to do for those areas is you're going to, let's use the number 8 flat brush for the tail feathers. I'm going to mix up a little bit of a light blue. I can just do it right here. I'm taking white and our Look at Me blue and making a lighter value of blue. And what I want to do first on our tail feathers is I'm going to stroke from the tip of the tail out and I'm going to stroke towards the bird. So we're going to start at the tip and we're going to stroke towards the bird. And I'm using a number 8 flat brush and my brush is flat, but I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to touch a corner down first. So let's turn this around and I'm going to touch a corner down first. And I'm going to apply pressure and then I'm going to begin to pull and lift as we get up towards the bird's body. So we're just bringing a little bit of this light blue on all 4 of the tail feathers. And again, it's a touching and applying pressure that's going to make the fat part. I'm lifting and I'm coming up to the chisel edge as I come towards the bird's body. Now I'm going to repeat that, but this time and I'm going to use my dirty brush. But I'm going to use only just white in the brush. And I'm going to not apply as much pressure so that I get a little bit smaller stroke. We still want to see the base color. We want to see our light blue that we just made now. And we're going to do another white little stroke on top. So can you see that I made that stroke a little bit smaller in size? Because I'm not applying as much pressure to do that. I want to have just a tinier little feather on top of the blue, the light blue that we just created. Okay, so that's all we're going to do to our tail feathers. Our wing feathers, we're going to do our liner brush, or I'm sorry, well, we might switch down to the liner brush. That might be more comfortable for you. I'm going to begin with the very tip. There's like 3 layers of feathers here on the wing. So there's one layer way out here that stretches way out beyond. Then there's a row right here, a second layer. And then there's a third layer that kind of connects with the body of the wing. We're going to start out on the tip and work towards the body of the wing. So on these little feathers that are out here, and there are 3 different strokes there, we're going to take our liner brush or a number 1 liner or a number 1 round, whatever you might have, a small round brush. I'm filling it with the local color. Again, that's our Look at Me blue. I'm also going to pull into our shading color, which was ink spot. So I actually have 2 colors on the brush, my Look at Me blue and my ink spot. And let's do the same kind of thing. We're going to touch down and pull and touch down and pull. And I've got Look at Me blue and my ink spot and touch down and pull. I want to put a little more ink spot on that last little one. There we go. So I've got 3 little bird feathers at the very, very tip of the wing. Now what I'm going to do is pick up, I'm not going to worry about cleaning my brush. I've got my Look at Me blue and I'm going to add a little bit of white to it, kind of like what we were doing here. And I am going to, on the next row, watch your brush stroke direction. It's not in the same direction going up. It's kind of more off to the side here. So we're going to add a little bit of white and we're doing that same kind of thing, touching down, applying pressure, and then pulling and lifting. This we want to be kind of like a middle value blue. It's going to be lighter than our Look at Me blue. And there's our second row of feathers. Our third row is going to be a lot more white this time. So I am going to still have blue in the brush, but I'm now going to add, and this one I think there were 4 little feathers. I'm touching down and I'm wiggling with some pressure to kind of give myself a little bit more to the feather here. And I'm going to pull those into the body. And then what I'm going to do is with a small flat brush and a little bit of our Look at Me blue and some white, I'm going to highlight that side of the wing and bring that into those strokes that we just kind of pulled in. All right. Our bird eye is painted with our darkest blue here, and I'm going to use my liner brush and just simply paint that large circle. If you look up here, you can see that it's all pretty much our dark blue. And my dark blue is our ink spot. And I'm just using the tip of my liner brush, and I'm going to paint a nice smooth circle. And there we go. And I'm going to come back and fill it in with a little bit more darker color. All right. And then what we want to do is we want to highlight this eye. So on this eye, I'm going to put a white highlight, but before I do, I'm going to pick up a little bit of Look at Me blue. Look at Me blue, sorry. And inside this dark circle, if you want to think about a face of a clock from like 11 o'clock to maybe 8 o'clock, I'm going to make just a little bit of a line. So we have, I'm going to bring it up so you can see, there is a little bit of a line from 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock, still following the curvature of that eye. And we did that with the Look at Me blue. The eye itself is our ink spot. Then we have that little line of Look at Me blue. Then the highlight in the eye is all done with the liner brush and a little bit of pure wicker white. And think about maybe 11 o'clock. There's a tiny little dot of white. And that's all we're going to do to this eye. Let's move on to our beak. And the beak is painted. You can use your liner brush or a small flat brush. The beak is painted with our yellow. Again, that is moon yellow. He is busy singing, so he's got his mouth wide open. And I am just going to let that moon yellow set up a minute. We'll come back and put some orange in it. So while that is setting up, we can take that moon yellow and give him some little feet. You can look at your pattern and refer to your pattern, or you can look at my finished piece here. They're just tiny little poles, and I am pulling from the bottom of the bird out. And we're kind of putting 3 of them together in one grouping to create one toe or one foot. So I'm just touching down with my moon yellow and pulling out 3 little tiny strokes. And then I'm doing the same thing on the opposite side to create our second foot. And I'm pulling from the bird out. And while I still have the moon yellow in my brush, I did grab a little bit of our apple red and I brought it over to the puddle of the moon yellow and made a little bit more of that orange color. And now I'm going to, on the bird's beak, put a little bit of that orange where the beak meets its head and on the bottom portion of the beak. On the top portion, we're just going to pull it out a little bit. So it's just a little bit of orange on the the bird's beak. And we're going to add a little bit of orange here where our feet were too. So that's all done with the liner brush. And while we had the brush loaded with the color, we're going to do both areas at the same time. Our little birdie also has a little bit of markings on his belly. If you want to add them, you can. And I'm going to bring it up here and show you that's all done with our burgundy color. So what I'm going to do, and this time we're not going to use our local color. I'm just taking a number 8 flat brush. It's clean and it's not really dry, but it's not dripping wet. And I'm going to side load a little bit into that burgundy mix that we made in the beginning. And I'm going to blend it on my palette. So I have just a little corner load of that burgundy. And I'll bring this up and show you one more time. What we're going to do is just kind of use the corner of the brush that has the burgundy in it. And we're just going to make little pulls coming down And it doesn't matter where you put them, you're just kind of speckling the bird. So I showed you that I just put 2 on there. I'm using the corner of my brush and I'm just pulling. And just pulling in an uneven fashion, kind of giving him a little pattern on his belly here. And that is the burgundy. All right, let's get our leaves going. I'm going to need to add another color to our palette. And that is our classic green and another color, lime green. You'll notice that when we get going on the leaves, they go very, very quickly, very fast. This is all done with my number 8 flat brush. So I'm going to get that ready again. And my number 8 flat brush, I'm going to, did we have a question, Chanel? I just happened to look up and say you can't speak for me.
They were just asking if you were going to be able to stay on a little longer to finish the painting. And I was just letting them know that Michael's allows extra time if needed. So you are good to go.
I'm good with that too. If that makes everyone happy, I will stay and we can work together on this. I know it's a lot and it's fast, but we will keep going. Okay. I want you to look now at our areas here around. We have these little kind of areas that are misshapen. They're going to be our flowers. What we want to do first, before we put our flowers in place, our little cone flowers, I want all this little greenery in here first. The greenery is not difficult. It's very, very easy, and it does go very fast once we know what we're doing. So I'm going to start with a number 8 flat brush. The 2 greens that I just added to my palette is the classic green and the lime green. I'm going to have both loaded in my brush at the same time, and I will constantly come back to the puddle of these 2 colors and occasionally add one or the other, depending upon whether I want a really bright, bright green or if I want a darker green here, maybe in closer towards the pail. I'll also bring in some of these little greeneries that are going to spill out over onto our pail or off out to the outside edge. So let's just start with one stalk. Let's maybe just do this one long one here. And you can do any direction of little stems of greenery that you want. You can kind of pull your pattern out and look at the pattern. I'll keep my finished piece here within eyesight so you can watch here. But let's just start here. I'm going to do this one long one that kind of comes out and it actually goes over the pail handle. Okay. So I'm going to take this number 8 flat brush and I'm going to load one side, but just like the same way I always pull my paint out from my puddle. I'm going to load one side of the brush with our classic green, and then I'm going to flip the other side over and load it with our lime green, our lighter green color. Okay. So I've got lime green on one side. Let me see if it'll focus. And then I've got not the Thicket, not our original green background color, but the classic green on the other side. And I'm going to make sure that I have it nice and flat. I have a nice chisel edge. And what I'm going to do is just imagining this arcing out here. If you want to stop and retransfer your pattern, you can. If maybe you want to get a pencil or even a piece of chalk and draw that out, whatever makes it easy for you. But I'm telling you, this is not difficult. Anyone can do this. I have faith in each and every one of you. So what I'm going to do, using the chisel of that brush, I'm just going to touch down about where I think it wants to go, maybe right here. And I'm just ever so slightly pulling it out to where I want to stop. And so it's pretty close to what we've got here. And it doesn't have to be exact. This is the part that's going to be fun for you. You can kind of fill in and do your own thing. So now I, again, reloaded my brush. I have both colors in the brush at the same time. These little leaves are not pulled from the stem coming out. We're going to pull into the stem, and I'm going to use a corner of the flat brush touching down first, just like we did the strokes of the feathers on the bird. So we're going to start out on the very tip, and I'm touching down. I'm holding my brush not flat. I'm holding my brush upright. So I'm going to touch a corner down first out here at the tip, and I'm going to mush and lift. That's all I did was I touched, applied pressure, I mushed, and then I lift. Then I'm going to load my brush again, and I am going to touch, push, mush, lift, and that is all we're going to do on both sides of our little stem here. When you look at mine here, notice that they're a little spread apart. I have space where you see the dark thicket showing through. I don't have them exactly side by side right on top of each other. And some of them can be exactly across each other. Like you see here, I've got a pair here and I have a pair here. Or some could be a little bit off, like here's a long one, then there's this one, and then there's an alternating one here. So your greenery is just really wherever you want it. You're just touching, pushing, mushing, and going. So I want you all to have fun with this and just keep adding some greenery and just work down the stem. See how quickly that went on there? Now let's go ahead and add a couple more of our stems. And you might find it easier to kind of draw your stems first, or at least work in a certain area here and draw some stems first. I'm going to bring one coming up this way. So now I've got 3 stems area. So let's stop and let's put some leaves on those. Corner down, push, lift, push, lift, push, lift. And occasionally stop, pick up more paint if you feel like you need to. You'll have darker colors in some areas and lighter colors in others. And I turn my work so that my leaves are easier for me to push and pull towards the stem. Okay. It's just a simple little stroke. It looks like it's a lot more, but look at how quick mine is on there, and yours should be too. So it's just a matter of doing a little stem line. I'm going to do another stem coming up this way. And well, because we don't have our flower petals on, we can kind of put our stems wherever we want. The flower petals are going to fill in after. Put another little one coming up this way. Maybe one coming out here. Down. And now I'm going to continue putting my leaves on. There's darker leaves in this area. I'm just simply doing the same thing. It's a repetitive motion. Touching down, pulling and lifting. The pressure that when you touch down is what's going to make the fat part of the leaf of our greenery here. And then as soon as you release the pressure and you're pulling up more towards getting up on that chisel edge of the brush, it's going to be a skinny little tail. The key thing is to pick up different alternating colors so that you don't always have one green always showing up. Our greenery could be a variety of different green colors. And I've got a couple more on this side. Turn your work so that you're stroking towards you. And not everyone needs to be the same amount of pressure either. Some leaves could be smaller than others. Okay, how are we doing? I think that's all there is to our greenery. Now, if you feel like you don't have enough greenery at this point, let's wait and get our flower petals on first. And then let's see if we need to add any of the greenery elsewhere. So I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to rinse out that number 8 flat brush. And while I'll give you a second to kind of work on that, I'm going to start drying mine a little bit. All right. I'm going to add another color to my palette, and that is Pueblo. Pueblo is a beautiful orangey brown color. It kind of looks almost like terracotta. And we're going to use our number 8 flat brush with our Pueblo to begin our flower centers. So we're going to do our little flower centers, and then we're going to pull petals up into those centers. So I've got my number 8 flat brush. You could even jump up to your number 12 if you want, depending upon how much space you left here. And I'm going to load my brush with my Pueblo, both sides of the flat brush. And then I'm going to side load a little bit into our black. That black and Pueblo is when you mix those two together, it's going to give you almost like a burnt umber color, but I want it only on one side of that flat brush. So I'm loading into our Pueblo and I'm blending here on the palette with the black. And as I stroke that out, I'm going to have like a burnt umber on one side and I'm going to have the Pueblo on the other side. So what I'm going to do with this brush mixture here, I'm going to keep the darker side towards the base of each of our little cone centers here. So closer towards the petal area, keeping the Pueblo side out towards the outside. I'm just simply going to take one of my flower centers and kind of pat that color on in the shape of like our oval. And I'm keeping that darker color towards the bottom of our cone centers. So go ahead and pat on with our brush loaded with our burnt umbery color at the bottom and our Pueblo color towards the top. Blending on the palette as I reload every time. I'm going to add a little bit more of that black, making it darker here towards the base of my flower center. And I'm going to keep the Pueblo towards the outside edge. And every single flower center is going to have the darker color at the bottom and the Pueblo towards the top. Just patting that color on. These are irregular shaped centers, kind of almost like an oval. Some of them might look more little egg shaped. Some of them might even turn into a circle for you. The coneflower is a raised center from the flower petals. And one more here for me. And then I think I'll bring one. Let's see, is this one? This one's coming out. I think I'll bring one down on top of my pail too, which I did not have a section. I'll do the one right down here, maybe bringing it down. Just kind of patting that color on. Then I'm going to wipe that color from my brush, but not clean it. I'm just going to wipe that excess color out. And on the side of the brush, so now I've got all my centers in. On the side of the brush that I had the Pueblo in, I'm now going to put a little bit of apple red. And we're going to accent the tips or the top part of each of the flower centers with a little bit of apple red. Just brushing on or patting on. I've got these two right here done if you want to look. I just put a little bit of apple red here at the top center of our little flower center. So it's apple red and I'm just patting it on, and your Pueblo might still be a little wet, and that's okay. It's actually even better because the two might blend well for you. but it's just tapping on a little accent color. And I'm just doing that real quickly across the tops of all of our little coneflower centers. All right. Now I am going to rinse my brush well, and I am going to start beginning on working on these flower petals. The flower petals are going to be our moon yellow. They're also going to use the Pueblo, and we're also going to use some wicker white. So I am going to start with loading my brush with our moon yellow. I'm going to load with both sides of the flat brush, and this is my number 8 still, with the moon yellow. I'm going to pick up a little bit of a brush of the Pueblo. We want both colors in the brush at the same time. And then occasionally we'll come in and we'll pick up a little bit of white too. So between our moon yellow, our Pueblo, and our white, all of these like flower petals are all painted with those 3 colors in the brush. So the more you do along, the more color you get in your brush, I think the easier it's going to be for you, because you'll see that you've got lots of colors blending together. Each of our coneflowers are not a full like daisy. They're not circles. They're only like 3, 4, or even 5 petals, all stroking from the outside of the petal in towards the center. So I am going to just start with, well, I'll start with this one right here. I'm going to hold my brush back, and I'm going to just simply touch down, apply some pressure, and then I'm going to release that pressure and lift up towards the center. I'm going to reload my brush with our Pueblo and our moon yellow. I'm going to do another one right next to it, and notice how the 2 are different colors. I can even come back and pick up a little bit of white from time to time and add another one. So you'll see that as you look at my finished sample here, all of those petals are all different colors. And that's because we're constantly loading our brush, we're constantly adding a new color, and we are creating different petals of a variety of colors. And that is all there is to creating this petal for the flower here, the cone flower. And I'm going to continue moving on to another one here. If your leaves by chance are still wet, you can either one of 2 things, wait for them to dry if you want, or you can continue on. And if you pick up a little green in that brush when you stroke over an area, I think that's fine, because it's just going to blend right into the color of that little flower. I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to continue adding more colors to my brush. Again, it's just basically these 3 colors. I've got the white, the moon yellow, and our Pueblo. And I'm just kind of hit or miss working around the canvas. And if you want a wider petal, start out with more pressure on your brush. If you want a skinnier petal, start out with less pressure. These little flower petals can overlap one another. Yes, you're right. I'm not sure. I didn't see who that was, but the white really does help. And it just really makes the flower petals look so lovely. Moon yellow and our Pueblo. Occasionally pick up a little bit of white. And I'm over here near the bird's tail, but I don't want to cover his tail, so I'm going to go a little bit shorter. And let's go over this one now. Moon yellow, maybe just some white this time. It's about learning brush pressure and brush strokes, and also getting the right amount of paint on your brush all at one time. And I'm going to bring a little bit more of our Pueblo in this one. I think on most of these, I did either 4 petals or possibly 5 petals. So it's up to you based on the space that you have on yours and how much area you need to cover. I hope you all are having fun. Remember to take a picture of your work when you're all done with it. I'd love to see it. And remember also, I was inviting you to join our Let's Paint community. We have Let's Paint with Plaid as a Facebook group. It's very warm and caring and sharing. We have over 25,000 members now, I'm happy to say. And every single one is a cheerleader for each other. It's a great area to join if you want to learn how to paint. If you're new, maybe in Michael's class tonight, and you really want to know more about painting, I invite you to join us. It's so much fun. All right, I've got all my flower petals in, and the next thing and the last thing that you do when you get your flower petals in, I'll bring this up so you can see a nice good close-up. We have lots of dots that are around the base of those flower centers. Those dots are done with black. They're also done with Pueblo. You can add a little bit of moon yellow if you want, but I kept mine dark. I wanted a lot of base color around here. So I used the Pueblo, the black, and if you want to accent, you can even pick up a little bit of apple red. Can you see the apple red there on this close-up right here? That is apple red, and that is all done with either using the tip of your liner brush or your #1 round brush. You can also use the handle end of a paintbrush if your paintbrush has got a nice skinny little handle, or you can use your stylus tool too that we use to transfer the pattern on here. I highly recommend that everyone do the black dots first, work from the dark color and then move up. So you're just going to do ditty dotty little black dots, just like tapping. Once you get paint on your dotting tool, whatever it's going to be, the tip of your liner brush, the handle of your liner brush, maybe, or a dotting tool like your stylus. Dip right into the black first, and then you're simply going to do lots and lots of little dots. And the first dot, the first time you touch down, is obviously going to have a lot more, a bigger dot or a lot more paint to it than the more you do around. So I'm going to dot. And when I dot around this center, I am not dotting a perfect line. I am dotting out onto the petals. I'm dotting into the flower center. And I'm holding up a black one right now. Can you see how many dots there are on that? You want to do all your black dots around all of your flower centers first. And it's just a matter of a rapid motion. You're touching and pouncing and dotting. And I'm dotting several all at one time. And like I said, don't do a straight line. Some of this is going out onto the petal. Some of this is going into the flower center. This is just going to be the base of our flower dots, flower center dots. And this is very free form. Stop and reload your little dotting tool as you need to. It's just a very rapid touch, 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 pat, 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 dot, dot, dot. And you're just going along the base or the bottom. So if you're thinking of holding it like a face of a clock, maybe from 7 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You're not going all the way around the full flower center, all the way up the top. It's just the base of the flower center. And the more loose you can be, like I said, some of them even come out onto the flower petals, the better it's going to look. Here's another example if you want to look at mine. See, they're not ducks in a row. They're just hit or miss all over. Some are large, some are small. And that's what we want to do, is do a whole round of black dots first. Then what we'll do is we'll come back with our Pueblo. And I did clean the black off of my dotting tool, and I'm just now going to repeat adding some Pueblo. And you're going to notice that the black won't be as strong. Here's one that has some Pueblo in it. There we go. And I'm going to continue again with the Pueblo, and I'm just going to dot. Same method, same technique. Some fall onto the flower center. Some of these dots fall onto the petals. And just stop and reload your tool every so often. If you didn't have a dotting tool like your stylist here, you could even grab a pencil tip. The tip of a dead ballpoint pen would work. And this doesn't take long either. It's just a matter of dot, 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 and go. Was there a question there, Caitlin? I missed that part. The Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group is an open group. Anyone can join. I'm going to bring mine up real close one more time. And Caitlin, did we have a question?
Yeah, I think they just needed some clarification. First you dot with the black and then you dot with the Pueblo.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And then, like I said, you can, even if you want to reach in there and get some of the yellows, you can dot a few with some of the yellows. But what I like to do is I like to use my accent of my red that just kind of ties in our pail too. So I'm going to now take some of the red, and I don't need to add red on every single one, but you can add that where you felt like you needed to. And that's just a few little red dots. Maybe less red dots than we did with the Pueblo and the black. It's just a little bit of a highlight or an accent, maybe. No, maybe not a highlight. And just maybe a couple more here on mine. We're going to do one more thing before we finish up our project here. So what we have now is we have our dark green background. And so what I would love for you to do is to make our dark green background corners even darker. And I'll bring my finished one up, and I want you to see that my corners are darker than the dark green. Can you all see that now? There's some black in there. And that black in all four of my corners is going to darken those edges, darken those corners. And when you look at this, your eyes are going to go more towards the focal point of our design, which is our bright red pail and our beautiful flowers and our little bluebird. So we are going to, first of all, I need to get some more Thicket back out. That was our base color here. I'm going to add a little Thicket to my palette. I'm going to use that largest flat brush that we started out with, which is our 3/4 inch flat brush. And I am going to load that brush with our Thicket. I'm going to get just a tiny touch of our Licorice, our black, on the corner of that brush. Blend on the palette like we've been doing. Make sure that that black is fully loaded and blended into our dark green, our Thicket. And we have a brush that only has paint on one corner of that flat brush, a little portion of that black brush. It's not all the way across the whole entire brush. If you don't have it adjusted right, make sure that you add either more Thicket or a little bit more black. We want that dark green to really kind of show up. And what I'm going to do is just think about each little corner here as like a little L bracket. And I'm going to keep the side of the brush that has the black in it to the outside of my design. I'm going to add a little bit more black to mine. Sometimes you have to test and adjust your color as you go on. And I'm going to pat that on, darkening that corner here with my black. Let me bring it up here in just a moment. And if you haven't painted the edges of your canvas, there's a couple things that, and I haven't painted mine. So there's a couple things I could do. I could come back and do everything with my Thicket, or maybe you want the whole thing just a black border, a black edge. But I want you to see here on this corner, I have darkened that corner with our black and our Thicket. And I'm just going to bring that along, and I'll do the same thing on all 3 other corners. And it's just short, choppy. It's very quick. I'm just kind of blending that in real quickly, working that color in. And I'm going to turn this. I'm going to scoot along the bottom here, being ever so careful not to get the paint on my red pail. And when I round these corners, I actually come in a little bit so that I'm deepening that color. It's not just a complete little L, it's almost like a little triangle of black in the corners there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more black, blend on my palette, use my Thicket here. And I'm going to continue on. If you still see maybe some of the pinholes of your canvas, maybe you didn't get your base coat on heavy enough, maybe you of that first round of Thicket, use the corner of your brush and kind of work in towards the design here. It can easily be touched up now as we're darkening the corners of our canvas. All right, one more little section here. Do we have any last minute questions, Caitlin?
On the original painting, did you have to do 2 coats of the green?
No, I didn't. I did it just like tonight. And I can't, as I'm coming back in now, I'm just kind of touching up any areas that I wanted to make a little bit darker.
Okay.
I mean, gosh, you could, but I don't think I did. I think I just worked with it the way I have it right now. And good friends and folks that tuned in tonight, that's all we have for our little birdie that's singing his song. And this is a beautiful little springtime painting, I think. And I love the little birdie. And I think the red pail is just very striking against that dark green background. I had fun designing this one. I hope you all had fun learning how to paint it. If there's any last minute questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I'm going to give you a preview of what the next Michael's class is going to be in 2 more weeks. That will be April the 9th. And that class is going to be tea time. So any of you that love little coffee nooks in your homes, this is a great painting for that. It's also a great painting when you think about Mother's Day gifts coming up. It's a kind of a fun painting to think about for, oh gosh, Mother's Day, gift giving, like I said, home decor. If you do like coffee nooks, this is going to be a really fun thing. It's called Tea Time. And I will be your instructor, and this is going to be here in the Michael's Community Classroom. And this will be 2 weeks from tonight, so that will be April the 9th. And this project is already uploaded on Michael's site, so you can go register for that if you want. And I welcome you all, like I said, to please share your work, use the hashtags that we mentioned earlier. If you'd like to share, be sure and post a picture in the Let's Paint with Plaid group. I welcome you all to become members. We're going to have a lot of fun there. You're going to learn lots and lots and lots of things, all kinds of helpful tips and hints and tricks on painting, and it's all free. So join us in the Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group, and then join me on April the 9th. I'd love to see you in class again. Hope you enjoyed our little birdie singing tonight, and I can already hear him singing. We've got lots of songbirds around there. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Until next time, I'm Chris Williams, and I thank each and every one of you for tuning in this evening. Have a great night. Bye-bye.